Because I've heard that so many times, and I've always thought that's total BS. Like, it's impossible.
It's not. I watched it happen.
Like, with your own two eyes, you'll say that really happens.
I'm not saying that she turned off her scent, but she dang sure reduced it and changed it.
Really?
Yeah.
So what happened?
Well, me and my grandson went out to this little, it's like a quarry, and big old rock piles. They mined some rock out of there. And I had trailed a lion into that one time before. So I told him, I said, let's go out there, and I said, let's take your call and let's try to call coyotes in. And I said, of course, we're going to take some dogs and see if anything went through there. And we roaded the dogs through there, and they struck, and we trailed back out the one way. And then I found what I thought was a track. It wasn't, real distinct, but I said, man, that's a lion track.
Hold your tongue right to see it.
Yeah. Sometimes I get a little too optimistic, but it was bad. We were going backwards. So we went back and we went through the mountain, and the dogs trailed. And matter of fact, I put it on my Instagram when the dogs were trailing through there. And, they were all in a line, and like they say, you could throw a blanket over them. And they trailed back around through there, and I watched them. They got off on this bad spot, and they just couldn't move it anymore. And we gave them quite a bit of time, and it was starting to get late in the day. So I told my grandson, I said, hey, let's throw these dogs back in the box, and we'll walk around this hill and set up the call and see if we can't call in a coyote, because the wind was just perfect, and everything was right, and we had a lot of view, we could see down the canyon and everything. And we had let that call go for a long time and nothing come in. We let it go for about 12 or 14 minutes, something like that, and then changed the sound, and nothing ever came in. And I told my grandson, I said, well, we haven't shot our guns in a long time. I said, let's pick out a rock on the other side of the mountain here, or on the other side of this canyon, and let's shoot at it. And he said, well, he calls me T-Taw. Well, T-Taw, what rock? I said, well, that flat rock right there. He said, what rock? I said, that flat rock right there. And he said, T-Taw, he said, there's a lion right there.
No way.
Yeah, that lion was the call was still going off, and that lion just kind of come over the hill looking down in that canyon. And
dang.
Of course, he said, oh, you want me to shoot it? I said, no. Let's go get the dogs.
We got to catch it first.
Yeah, let's. So we went and got the dogs, and man, that lion, what I believe was that lion was bedded down on the other side of that canyon. Those dogs trailed back to where she was bedded down. And of course, some of those dogs they got pretty sticky right in there. There was a whole lot of scent, a real protected area, and they were bawling. And I had one dog take off and go down there, and she's pretty silent. And I told my grandson, I said, look, she's trailing that lion. And she went around the side of the mountain. And what that lion had done is when we jumped up to go get the dogs, she had kind of snuck around the side of the mountain. And pretty soon they got her jumped. And the other dogs went, and she went, and man, they took off. And they, of course, going through the big old boulder pile, the dogs couldn't keep up with her. And,
oh, sure.
And they were working, and, but they tried. And then she hit a little old dry wash, and she went 600 yards out that wash. And those dogs, I mean, they were building to her. They were just hooking it up through there. And she went through a little set of bluffs. And when she went through the set of bluffs, of course, it held the dogs up for a while. They got stuck in there, and finally they worked their way around. And she came back to where she started from, right down another dry wash, but coming back towards us. And those dogs got through those bluffs coming. We watched the lion when she come out. So, they were probably, 200 or 300 yards behind her. And there was just a little old 2-track road there. And she got in that road, and she squatted down, and then she put her head up and looked back at those dogs. And then she just crawled out of there. I mean, just absolutely just crawled out of there, crawled into this little old canyon, crossed back up. And when those dogs hit that spot, their trailing slowed down to a crawl. And
that is crazy.
Getting to that point, they were just bawling and running. I mean, just
wide open,
fast. And they got to that spot, and they just slowed down to a crawl. And I told my grandson, I said, you know what? I said, we just witnessed a lion changing their scent, reducing it, or turning it off,
That's
like the
so
old timer
crazy.
said, or something. And then they worked it back, and that lion came back around the hill, back to where she was, walked up her track, came back down her track, and crossed the arroyo and went out across the greasewood. And the dogs never could figure that out. They got in there and they trailed here and trailed there and trailed back and forth. And me and my grandson got in the buggy and drove around, went down to the wash. And he's the one who found it. He said, "Hey, T-Taw," he said, "look over here." Went over there and we could see where her tracks went out the opposite way and went out across the greasewood. And by then it was so late, and the dogs were toasted. And then it's really difficult to trail across that greasewood.
Man, I want to hijack your podcast now because I got a bunch of questions. Do you think that it like really like holds back scent, or like, you know, some people say like, you know, a dog will release anal glands or something like that? Do you think it's something that's changing, or it's actually a reduction? Is it more of a masking of the scent or a reduction of the natural lion scent? What do you think?
I think it's the way they're not leaving as much scent. She sat there and caught her breath. I've heard a lot of theories, you know, that when they're running like that, they're breathing out their mouth or whatever, and they're throwing a lot of scent out.
Yeah.
And then when they stop like that, and she kind of had now it wasn't that long. The dogs weren't that far behind her, but she looked back, and then she just turned into it just started sneaking.
Like she was deliberate.
And she was she was sneaking away. She wasn't, you know, using speed to get away from those dogs. She was using her ability to sneak. And
that's so
I
crazy.
think it just changes. There's not as much scent. I heard, a matter of fact, on this podcast, and I don't know if Steve talks about it or Jim, I can't remember, but I know Steve and I have talked about it before. And Cleve Dwyer said also that these lions, that right before they bed down, that's when the old timers say turn off their scent, or they start sneaking to go to wherever they're going to bed down. And when they do that, that's why a lot of times they'll just, you know, it's hard to get to them after they've bedded down. You know, your trailing just turns into a crawl. And when they get, you know, the dogs are working. That's like when I was with Mike Root, you know, and we were up there, and man, I wanted to move the dogs. I said, shoot. I said, you know, that lion went through that saddle way over there. He said, no, let's just sit here and watch them. And shoot, it took forever, and all of a sudden, just wah wah wah
just
wah.
Jumped.
There was a lion on a rock. Not even a jump. They just got it out of its bed, and that lion jumped up on a rock right there in front of those dogs.
That's crazy.
So there was not even a jumped race. And I asked Mike, I said, well, how did you know? He said, well, you just learn your dogs. He said, I knew with that dog, the way that dog was acting, that lion was in there somewhere. And it wasn't like the dog was bawling. He was like, you know, in a 20 foot, it probably took him 15 minutes to go 20 foot.
Right.
And he only bawled like 2 or 3 times in that amount of time. You know, I learned a lot. I thought I was always patient, and I'm not.
No, that's just crazy to me, that you got to see it all.
Well,
that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, that was something. I mean, you know, of course, my grandson. No, we were calling coyotes. I videoed with my phone a little bit. I didn't video the lion. I got kind of caught up in what was going on, typical of my camera work. But
no,
you know,
you're not the first one to say that. That's what I was thinking of Cleve too. I know he's pretty diehard. Like they definitely pick up their scent.
Mm-hmm. They do something. Something happens. I know that. And you know, I think there's a lot of, you go around, you know, you be trailing a lion, and then the dogs are trailing real good, you know, and they're bawling and trailing and everything. Then you get to a spot and they can't hardly move it. You know, it slows down to a crawl. And I think that's when they, you know, maybe their lion's just kind of walking through there nonchalantly, and all of a sudden, you know, something catches his eye and he wants to put on a stalk or something. So he starts sneaking. And when they start sneaking, they just don't leave any scent.
Man, you could have had like a Bigfoot video right there. Like you could have proved it all.
I could have.
one
If
video.
I'd had to have, when I make my videos, I just carry one of those little GoPros, and the only thing it's really good for is just kind of scenery and kind of what they call point of view, what my
Right.
point of view is. But you'd probably had to have a camera with a pretty good zoom.
I'll
Because when
bet.
she come back in the road, she was a little ways away from us. I don't know. She was probably 300 or 400 yards, I guess.
That's still crazy to actually get to see that. Like you're
Yeah.
talking to a guy who can't see usually more than 100 yards because all the trees. Like, that big ground is cool.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you guys can't see very far at all. Well, and just last week, I trailed lion, and the dogs trailed past her, and I looked up in front, and there she was standing. I looked, and I thought, man, that's too big to be one of my dogs, because I was behind him. I was on the mule, and then I looked a little closer. I made that video too. It's on my Born 100 deal, and sure enough, there was that lion.
They trailed right past it.
Yeah, and I got her on video, but it's not very good video because I just had that GoPro.
Right.
And then we ended up putting her in a rock pile down there in a hole in rocks. And I couldn't even get a camera in there to get any pictures of her in the hole, but she was dang sure in there growling. Then the dogs were climbing in the hole, and I was hollering at them, trying to get them. I didn't want them to stick their head in there and get it bit off, and just one of those deals.
Gets a little wild.
She's still up there, so. It's
Really?
a good thing. Yeah, that's a good thing. So
that's awesome.
I haven't been able to go back and see if I could trail her around a little bit.
So did Steve, and it was with Steve and Jim, didn't you say this episode?
Steve Smith and Jim Buhler. And
we've heard from Jim before, haven't we? On a past one?
Well, I've talked
or you've
about
talked
it.
about him a lot.
I went to, he lives in Ely, Nevada. And he works for the USDA, I guess. They call it the company. And
The company.
Yeah, and I had an opportunity. I thought I was going to have time or be able to get to talk to him, and he got called out on a bighorn sheep kill or something like that. And so I'd sold a mule up there, and I was meeting a guy out of California to pick up that mule, and I didn't get to talk to him. So I thought, well, I lost that opportunity. And then I've been talking to Steve Smith, and I don't know if people have heard of Steve Smith before or not, but, I mean, everybody knows Warner Glenn. I mean, Warner Glenn's a big, if you're going to draw a picture of a cowboy, you're going to draw a picture of Warner Glenn. Well, Steve Smith is just like that. I mean, he's 6'7" and he's all cowboy. He told me one time, I said, Steve, I sure would like to interview you for the podcast. And he said, if it doesn't have hair on it, I'm not interested in it. And that's about right. So, but then he's the one, he said, I got to talking to him, and we talked about dogs and different, people and everything. And he told me, he said, you need to talk to Jim Buhler. He said, Jim's caught over 1,000 lions in his lifetime. And he said, he's a real knowledgeable guy. And then he called me and said, hey, Jim's coming down here to pick up a dog or do some dog trading with him or something. He said he would talk to you. He said, if you can make it over here, he's going to be here for a few days. And
Nice.
so I said, yeah, shoot, yeah. And so I loaded up and went over there.
Brett's on the road again.
Yeah, it was a good one. I even if I went to took anything to record it, I would have gone over there just to listen to him talk. Listen to him stories. And it was all for Jim, about Jim, and that's what it was set up for. But during the podcast, I did talk Steve into joining in for a little while.
Just get his toes wet for the next one.
Yeah, so hopefully I'll get him to. He hunted Dale Lee's dogs for him for a while, and he's been down in that really good dry ground lion country, and he's had some really, really good dogs, and most people that dry ground lion hunt know about Steve.
Yeah, you've talked about him ever since I remember starting talking with you. Like he was kind of the mystic of the Southwest.
Oh yeah, he's and he's
how old is he?
I think Steve is man, I'm going to get it wrong. I think he's in his 70s, I believe.
He's a little on the younger side, getting up there, but
still hunts, still gets out and about. You can't. I mean, he's in good shape. I mean, shoot,
he can tell a story.
Yeah, I don't know if you got to listen to any of that, but it was one of my favorite podcasts that I've done. One of my, just being able to sit and talk to those guys.
You can tell. No, it's a good one.
And there's so much more. You can just go on, but still, I want to try to get Steve to sit down and maybe if I know he's going to listen to this, so
I hope he does. If he's listening, Steve, you should do this podcast.
Yeah,
pass on the knowledge.
Yeah. So and his story about I always like to know how these guys. He told me, he said, because I said, how did I'm real interested in how anybody got started doing what we do, and he said, anybody does what we do has to be genetically flawed. So,
that's true too.
So that's pretty good.
Well, awesome. Yeah. I'm just glad you're back. I know you've been busy, but you've been saying you had some interviews lined up, so I've had lots of people asking. I
have more. I'm going to go to Oklahoma. I got a deal. Cody King, which I did the podcast with him, and you guys shared it with everybody. But he's going to take his cat dogs from South Texas, and we're going to go to Oklahoma and see if he can't catch a bobcat in Oklahoma.
That'll be fun.
Yeah. So y'all stay tuned. I don't know. I don't know where it's going to come out at. I don't know. We'll probably record, some sort of podcast while we're there, because Otis Llewellyn's going to be there also. And then I think Van Johnson's going to be there and some of those old guys. So it should be interesting. That'd be cool. I think it'd be some good stuff. So as Clay Newcomb would say, I'm pretty sure you don't want to miss this one.
That's not trademarked, is it?
No,
you're not going to get us in trouble.
What do they say? That imitation is the most sincere form of flattery.
That's it. Did you not hear our April Fool's podcast?
Oh, jeez. Yeah, I think you guys got me on that thing.
Oh, of course we did.
It's
flattering. Oh man. Well, I'm glad you're back, Brett. I know you've been real busy, but we're going to do a whole episode. I want to elaborate on this whole picking up scent thing too, because I have some theories, but I don't know anything. I'm not a lion hunter. But I do think you're onto something about the breath when they're running and being able to collect yourself and
something.
I just can't believe you actually got to sit and see it.
That's what I tell everybody, that I actually got to see one turn off her scent.
You're one of about 2 people, probably.
Yeah, I'll write a whole book on it.
You should. That's when Brett hits the big time.
Oh yeah, Amazon bestseller or something like that.
Well, awesome, man. I hope everybody enjoys it. It was good. Good stories. I don't know. I love that about the guys that you interview, is they're such good storytellers, and they can just talk, which is an art form anymore. So
yeah. There's a lot more to do. Enjoys. So good. That's good. I was going to say, go join my Patreon. I have a hard time with that.
You can sell yourself every once in a while, Brett. I know. Go see his Patreon.
Go
where else they can subscribe to YouTube.
Yeah, the YouTube's kind of different deal. Or well, it's not different. I got my Born 100 Years Too Late deal, and then I decided that I wanted to do the interview stories and tales, and it would be more about the the dogs and stuff like that, and some of the stuff I can share. As far as some of these other deals I've got, these other interviews and things that I've videoed.
Your plethora.
There's no video on this one because I asked them. I said, "You guys want me to set up this camera?" And they said, "We'd rather you not." So I said, "Yes, sir."
If you want to walk out of here with your life.
Yeah, they said we'll just kill you, and then we won't have to worry about it.
Awesome. Well, thanks for taking a chance for it. It was a good one.
All right. Well, good. I hope everybody enjoys it. Let me know. Comment. We came up here to Steve Smith's. This is his ranch, right?
Yes, it's Bar 11.
The Bar 11 here Looks like pretty good lion country down in
Yeah, it is good lion country here in Tonto Basin.
In the Tonto Basin. It's been raining the whole time. Me driving over here, and there's a happy you can't hardly talk to him because of all the rain.
Yeah, them guys needed this rain bad, and their dreams is coming true now.
Anyway, Mr. Smith had set me up to come down here and talk to Mr. Jim Buhler. And Mr. Buhler has been running hounds on lions for 50-something years.
Yeah, 55, 56 years.
There you go. And you live up by Ely, Nevada?
I do now. Yeah, I've lived up there for about 46, 47 years.
So, got to get the story down. Where are you from? And
Well, I'm from up in Idaho originally, and my dad had a sheep outfit up there, all of his life. And, the Caribou, Bear Lake country up there. And, we spent the summers up in the high country, and that's where I grew up, in the summertime.
Running those sheep?
Yeah. Well, we didn't. He had herders that worked for him, but we had a centralized camp there, and we would pack salt different directions to the sheep herders, and we'd pack supplies into them. We had a big string of horses and mules. And
where were your folks from?
From that area.
Same area.
Yeah.
And I imagine with the sheep that you probably encountered predators and lions.
Yeah, that's how I got started, trailing around up there. And my pa, would have lion trouble, but mostly bear trouble. And in the summertime, and then in the wintertime, we'd come to Nevada. He would haul, all them sheep out to Nevada in the wintertime. And lots of times, or some of the times, we'd have lion trouble in Nevada, and that's how I got started hunting lions and bears.
You got hounds at that time?
Well, when I first started, I went with we had some lion trouble there in the wintertime, and my dad called a state lion hunter, a Melco guy named Dick Hall. And Dick came over. I was about 10 years old at the time, and anyway, he asked my dad if my dad wanted to go with him the next morning, after these lions. Dad said that he couldn't, and I guess I was dancing around there and looking kind of nervous. And finally, old Dick Hall, he was still a young man at that time. He said, "Would your boy like to go?" And Dad says, "Oh, I think he probably would, So they let me go, and I went with that old boy that next day, and we caught them lions, and that was the first time I'd ever been hunting with dogs.
And it hooked you?
Yeah, and I remember when he drove up there to our camp, he had this truck with with this bunch of boxes and stuff in the back, and I didn't have a clue, what was in them boxes. And I went back there and looked in them dogs, they all started bellowing at me, and God. And then that next day and the next day, I knew from then on what I wanted to do.
I'll be dang.
Yeah.
Did you go try to get your own dogs right away? Or?
Well, no, I waited 2 or 3 years. I was hunting up there, and I catch the lions and, primarily bear with the sheep dogs, with Dad's dogs and my dogs, they'd trail them bears and catch them. They didn't bark much, but they'd tree good. And so I was able to catch a few bear around there, and and I didn't know where to start. I didn't have no connections with the dog world at that time,
Mm-hmm.
So I was trying to find some dogs and this and that and the other, and everybody was telling me about all them kind of dogs. And anyway, I finally got a couple old dogs, and and trailing around, but. Anyway, that's what got me started.
So that was primarily bear that you?
Yeah, kind of bear and some lions too, but by the time I was 14, I was starting to hunt lions, on the summertime by myself quite a bit. And, and when them dogs were having a little trouble trailing, I'd trail that damn thing up myself, pretty much.
Yeah.
And, anyway, and then, just kind of worked my way up and been doing it ever since.
I'll be dang. And now, Did you have anybody that was kind of a mentor that helped
No.
you get started? You just started on your own?
Yes.
Hobby day.
Yes, I could get around in the mountains on a horse or mule, real good, and understood tracks, lion tracks and bear tracks and the age of tracks and everything like that, but I didn't have nobody to tell me or show me about lion hunting and bear hunting. At that time, I learned pretty much on my own.
So, did you like running lions a lot more than bears?
Well, to successfully catch lions, to me was more of a challenge and more of a hard deal than catching bear.
Mm-hmm.
And we had more bear up there than lion at that time. I'd have to wait till we got down to Nevada, primarily to run lions.
So when did you end up going down to Nevada?
Well, we was already going down to Nevada in the wintertime, with the sheep.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would hunt lions down there. I could. And then by the time I was about 14, in the summertime, I took the truck and drove 300 miles back on dirt road and hunted lions just I guess to see if I could be successfully hunt lions.
Did you take those same old dogs that you had, or?
Well, I had a couple of old black and tans, and I was camped over there, near some water, living out in a tent. Well, I actually didn't have a tent. I was just living out, by a fire, and so I was checking on this water. About the third or the fourth morning, the lion come in to this water, and I see his tracks there. And so I took them old dogs and started up this lion track, and them old boys, they'd mess around with it a little bit, and I just kept going, knowing it was last night, and finally got over into a little bunch of ledges, and them dogs just fired and opened, and I knew that I would, had him jumped at that time, and they caught that damn thing. So
you were just camped out just so you could hunt.
Yeah.
How did you? I mean, it's funny how someone can get hooked like that at that young of an age.
Yeah, well, all that stuff was part of life for me.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up out there and out in the mountains, and there was nothing that I couldn't do with horses and mules or dogs by myself at that age.
Mm-hmm. And then you ended up. When did you move to Nevada?
Well, full time, I didn't move to Nevada till 1977.
How old are you now?
69.
69. And you moved. Is that when you went to work for what you call the company?
Yeah, actually, I'd been working in Idaho, catching bear and stuff before that. And then they asked me if I'd come to Nevada and help them for the summer, catch lions. So I came to Nevada and just for the summer and hunted around, and then that fall, Idaho loaned me to Nevada.
Oh, so you were working for the game department, or?
Yeah, well, at that time it was Wildlife Services.
Okay.
U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service.
Mm-hmm.
And Idaho loaned me to Nevada. The fact is, Idaho was still paying me. And then when it got time for me to go back to Idaho, Nevada approached me and says, we'll put a full-time job here if you want to stay. So I stayed.
You like Nevada better than?
Yeah, but it's fun to go back and visit,
Sure.
But my folks is all gone, and, I don't have many relatives left up there, so I don't go back much.
Yeah, yeah.
Nevada's pretty much my home now.
So you've been there by Ely for 40-something years? Then?
Yeah, 45 years or so.
Did you hunt with Wiley Carroll any, or were you around him?
I knew Wiley, and actually Wiley hunted with me a few times, and we caught lions together. Wiley didn't have no dogs at that time.
Oh, okay.
But we caught lions together, and and I seen Wiley a lot. And I was in my middle 20s by then,
Yeah.
And anyway, we had a good time with that old boy.
Yeah, we've got an interview of Wiley Carroll, but it's after he'd had a stroke, and he's really hard to understand.
Well, Wiley had cancer.
Oh, okay.
And I don't know if, and he had to, they went into Salt Lake, and they took out part of his neck, his lymph node gland, and cut part of his tongue off.
Maybe that's what it was instead of a stroke. Yeah. I just know on that it's pretty hard to listen to.
I seen that.
Yeah.
I seen that video.
Yeah, because you want to try to understand him because he had a lot of knowledge and he was a real humble guy.
Yeah,
and that's amazing. So when you went down to Nevada and started hunting lions, how did your first real good dog that you thought, man, this is the real deal?
Well, I don't know. Maybe I haven't ever found him yet. I got some humbling experiences with them dogs. I was catching lions and bears and stuff up in Idaho, and I could come to Nevada or Utah in the winter and catch lions. But when I was down here, and called upon to hunt lions all summer long, year round all summer long, and I know I was kind of, it was a lot harder for me. And the dogs that I came to Nevada with that I thought was pretty good dogs, they was okay dogs. They really was. And, till I met, Mr. Charlie Leader and seen what a real pack of dogs could do,
Really?
Yeah.
What was the difference that you noticed?
Well, them dogs, fire up and go out of there, with intent to catch, and they was fast dogs, hard tree dogs, good locators, with a lot of determination, they wasn't looking for a chance to quit every 5 minutes. They was looking to get down the country and get that lion caught or get whatever caught that you was after. So he and I hunted a little bit back in, we've hunted all of our lives together since then, but this would have been back in about 77 or 78.
Is Mr. Leader, is he still alive?
Uh-huh.
I'll be dang. And was he a company man also? Or?
Yes.
He was?
Yes, at that time. And then he ran a successful outfitting business for years on lion hunting.
Did you end up getting some dogs from him, or?
Well, yes. He shared them dogs with me, or, give me some of them dogs. And then as time went on, when Charlie started slowing down and gearing down, life, he lived a lot of life. And in the end, I was able to return the favor, with some of the same dogs.
Oh, you traded back with him and helped him out.
But man, that guy had some magnificent lion dogs.
I wonder where they came from. Do you know how they were bred?
Yeah, I do.
How is that?
Well, they was Walker dogs.
Walker dogs.
Walker dogs. And the first good dog, he was pretty successful at that. And then there was an old boy in California named Ron Graves. It was Bud Graves' son.
Mm-hmm.
And they brought Charlie up a dog and gave it to him. And then he bred, that dog's name was Patches. And Charlie bred that to another dog or two that he had around there and got them pups. And man, with them, that was good dogs. They was hardcore, determined dogs.
There were, and I mean, the difference is their desire to go catch, to keep moving that track. And
yes.
And
yes, there's a lot of dogs that'll trail all day, and never get out of hearing of you if you're standing still. And them kind of dogs don't catch much, they don't put many hides on your stretcher as far as lions goes.
Yeah.
And they was tough dogs, they could endure a lot of heat, and they had good feet under them. And they was kind of a smaller dog. And kind of, some of them was a little bigger, but most of them was kind of light-made dogs, not tiny dogs, but 40-pound, 45-pound dogs or something like that.
So, typically, do you think those dogs probably up or hold up a little bit better?
Well, it seems like it, and they take the heat a little better too.
Do they?
Yes. And so Charlie, helped me. He gave me a couple of dogs, and then. I bred, and then we bred outside dogs and around, but still to this very day, Most of the dogs that I have come from that old boy's bloodline.
Really?
You know, and that's been 26, 27 generations ago.
Have you been able to breed out to anything else that you think is comparable, or?
No.
Not really.
No, you know, with that bunch of dogs, I've line bred them back and forth for so many years, you know, and they was really good dogs. And, you know, I started realizing with each generation, I'm losing a little bit of ground with this bunch of dogs. Little bit. You know, there might be one or two that was real good and two or three that was, just kind of fair or something. And, so one day I went out and found me a really good, running type dog, and I bred into them. And boy, that rejuvenated that bunch of dogs, and man, was they hot and fiery.
That running walker?
Yes.
Where did you go to find a good running walker?
In California, you know, a guy by the name of George Flournoy was hunting with me. He'd come over and hunt with me. Mm-hmm. And George had them dogs, and so we were hunted together quite a bit, you know. And then finally, one day he says, "I've got this little female dog over here." He said, "Would you start this dog for me?" And she was a red ring neck dog. He called her Rona. Mm-hmm. I said, "Yeah, I'll start her." So anyway, he brings this little red ring neck female over there, and she was about 8 or 9 months old, I guess. And I started taking her to the mountain with me and got on a lion track or two. And man, did that son of a gun fire right now and trailing right now immediately. And she trail fast and go far, you know, and, and was smart about it. So anyway, finally old George raised a litter of pups out of her. And he had a male dog there that was a red ring neck dog and called Macho. And that dog wouldn't run no bear at all, wouldn't even go on a bear track. So George says, "I'm going to sell that dog." Then I said, "Okay, George, what do you got to have for him?" And he told me, and it damn near knocked my hat off. But, you know, that was a really nice dog. And so I bought that dog from George. I bought that dog. And the funny part about it was when I got that dog at my place, most of the dogs that I had at that time would out trail him. Mm-hmm. They would out trail this dog, you know, but he'd never hunted lions. He was a 3-year-old when I got him. He'd never hunted lions much like I do. And so pretty well everything would out trail him. And as time went on, you know, another year went on or something, you know, he was much better than he was when I got him. Mm-hmm. So I bred him to a female, and one of my female dogs. And my goodness, did them pups turn out to be unbelievable dogs.
So they were half running walker and half of your dogs that went back to Charlie Leader stuff.
Yes. And anyway, so I bred that dog to 3 different females. Mm-hmm. And I had a total of 25 pups. You know, and 24 of them pups turned out to be unbelievable, outstanding dogs.
Really?
Yes.
And, I mean, just moving a track faster. And we've been experimenting a little bit with some half-running dogs. Uh-huh. And I think it's kind of, like you said, that they go out there a lot further. And they're not near as seems like they're not near as babbly and sticky. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And, you know, an old timer by the name of Cecil Dodge, that hunted lions or hunted with dogs all of his life. And he lived up in Pocatello, Idaho. And he passed on at 97 years old. And, Cecil told me about 40 years ago, he said he was hunting with me one day and he's looking at them dogs. He said, "You know, Buhler, the only way you could improve on them dogs that you got right now," he said, "add just a Scotia running dog to them in there." And and I never did, you know, and went on. And then about 15 years later, somehow it got to be my idea. I mean, you know, and it made a hell of a difference.
Did it?
Yeah. Yeah, them dogs, you know, they run to catch that stuff, you know, and they're physically tough dogs. I don't mean to fight, but to endure their feet. And if they're not, you know, they usually don't stick around my place very long.
Yeah.
And I don't like dogs that open off track or babble mouth dogs, you know, and the dogs that I have, you know, aren't that way at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you still hunt off a mule quite a bit, or a horse?
Yes. Off a mule all the time.
All the time. So
not 100%, you know, sometimes I'll hunt out of a side by side, or, you know, just whatever it takes.
Sure. So, yeah, those mules, we discussed mules earlier. They can sure be frustrating.
Yeah, they, you know, them good mules is hard to find, and good horses, you know, and is after so many years of hunting, you know, if you hunted as much as I have afoot, good God, you'd be wore out 30 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
You know, you'd be dead and gone.
Yeah. So, I mean, do you hunt 6 days a week, 7 days a week?
Whatever it takes.
Really?
You know, if we got line trouble going on, I might hunt 120 days straight.
Wow.
Without ever a day off.
Just taking care of the problem.
Yes.
And is it mainly for, is it in the bighorn sheep range or everything?
Everything. You know, I don't do so much of that bighorn sheep anymore. And our lion numbers is actually, you know, getting down where, you know, there'll be sometimes we don't have too much lion trouble anymore.
Really?
And, you know, in the old days, you know, like 25 or 30 years ago, there was lion trouble every week somewhere, or sometimes several lion complaints in a week, you know. And I know I was hunting every day.
What do you think the difference is? Do you think there's more lion hunters or just habitat?
Yes, there's more lion hunters now and more technology, and the lion numbers are down. You know, I think they'd be down a lot more. I mean, I think they'd be down if nobody was bothering them. You know, the deer is getting pretty scarce. And nature's kind of, you know, and then them livestock men, they started getting them guard dogs, Pyrenees dogs, and in ways to helping themselves too, you know, with predation.
Yeah, I know that happens down in our country a lot too, you know, and it's things that happen that you never hear about.
Yeah.
So.
But, yeah.
Well, that's cool. So when did you get your first tracking collars? If you even use them now.
I use them. You know, the first tracking collar I ever got, I never bought one, by the way, but the first tracking collar I ever got, you know, there was an old boy in California, and he'd been calling me for 4 or 5 years, talking about tracking collars. And so he bought a tracking collar, a system, a Johnson. And I never did meet the guy. Anyway, he passed away. And one day I didn't know he was even dead, and his wife called up, and I didn't know his wife either, you know, but she just called up and says, you was friends with so-and-so? And I said, yeah. Well, he passed away the other day, and I want to give you his tracking collars.
Wow.
So she boxed this set of Johnson collars up, 5 or 6 collars in the hand unit, and sent them to me, you know, and so I started using them. You know, and at that point in time, I'd never used it, except when the only tracking collars that I'd ever been around was when I was tranquilizing lions for studies, you know.
And then you put them on the lions.
Yes.
I'll be dang.
Yes, and then, so that's the first tracking collars that I ever had.
Did it help a lot, or did you?
Yeah, you know, it did help a lot. Yeah.
Change the way you hunt?
It actually made it a little easier. And then besides, when I was waiting for a dog to come in, I could always fool around with that damn thing.
It gave you a little more confidence that he was coming in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, because in the wintertime, there's always bobcat trappers and stuff around, you know, and people using snares and conibear traps and all kinds of stuff, you know, that that it's kind of dangerous for one of your high dollar hounds, and so it brings a little peace of mind.
Sure. How about shotgun collars?
I've been using shotgun collars for a long time. I started using shock collars maybe back in 78.
Really?
1978. Yeah.
That was when they first came out, or whatever.
And, no, they was out. Them Lee brothers had them, and Tritronics was making them collars, and I had one or two dogs that was a trashy son of a gun, and I was having a hard time getting him broke, and so I bought one of them shocking collars, and
it worked.
Yeah, it helped. It helped. And now, I got, I had another guy send me one of them Garmin collars outfit. Yeah. Now the whole outfit, now I got about 12 collars or 14 collars and the whole deal, But,
they're nice, aren't they?
Yeah.
They're not.
Yeah, but if they outlawed them today, that'd be fine with me.
Mm-hmm. I'm with you. I call it cheating. Not that I don't use it, but I'll pull it out and I tell whoever's with me, I say, well, I'm cheating right now.
I could always keep track of them dogs pretty good. My biggest deal is if I got back to the truck and I had 50 or 60 miles to go home and, I'm missing a dog or a dog didn't come in, maybe, I'd seen that dog or knew that he was there an hour ago. Mm-hmm. And now, coming in, now I'm missing him. I can pull that thing out.
See where he's dragging up to.
Yeah, see what's going on,
When you go out in some of those areas, do you go out there and camp and just stay in the area, or do you drive back home?
No, I stay a lot of times out in the mountains. A lot of times I just stay out, sleeping on the ground, or a lot of times I take a camp with me. Sometimes I take a tent with me.
What kind of camp do you? A tent or a wall tent? Or
well, I got a wall tent, yes, and also I got one of these sheep camps.
Oh, you pull behind your truck or whatever?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It depends on what the circumstances are and what the locale is.
Yeah, and the weather, I imagine.
Yeah.
If it's wintertime, you probably don't want to be sleeping on the ground.
I'll sometimes take that sheep camp into an area, and I'll just stay in it for like 90 days hunting,
Mm-hmm.
And yeah.
And that's an area probably where they've been having some depredation, some trouble and stuff. And you just get in there and start making circles and trying to
taken care of.
How those lions, I know it's always a question, or, how big or how far they travel, how they travel. I've talked to several people and they all say different things. In your opinion, what?
Well, I tell you what, I think they traveled, different distances according to the feed.
Mm-hmm.
If there's lots of deer and lots of stuff around, like out there in Nevada, in some of them little desert ranges, I know for a fact that them lions will travel, 800-900 miles.
Wow.
Making a little circle in there, looking for something to eat.
Just making
and they don't make a circle like, it's not round or, they'll go this way and that way.
They have places where they hit.
Yeah.
How
check on waters and check on female lions and check if this little deer herd or that little desert bighorn sheep herd or something, Yeah.
Yeah.
And then in that snow country, when that snow gets deep and them deer get yarded up, they don't make them lions don't make very big. They're just around in there.
They can stay right there at the buffet and make a living.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. That they. I know I've seen where they've collared some lions. There's an Indian reservation down here that has some lions collared, and they collared some young toms and shoot, one of them dispersed and went all the way from New Mexico all the way up north, I think, to Wyoming or Montana or something like that. Just
they've known the lions that's 750 miles.
Wow. So the females, do you think? I've heard a lot of guys say that they think You know, they say people don't realize, but there's more female lions than you think. Do you believe that to be true, or?
I don't know. Let me think about this. I think there's a few more toms born than there is females born. You know, on them studies, that's, you know, we've caught lots of, you know, several lions on those studies. I have.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, of course, I get to see the results. And if there's male kittens or female kittens, you know, I can see what's going on. And I'd say there's maybe, you know, 55% male kittens born versus, you know, the female kittens.
And those toms will come through and kill those kittens, won't they?
Well, you know, I've seen that happen.
Have you?
I have seen that happen. But I've seen a lot of times when it, you know, there was a tom around there and them kittens were just fine too.
Yeah. That's if you were just, if they was to just take you out into some country that you didn't know, where do you go to look for lion sign? I mean, if you were going to start a lion, try to catch a lion, where would you go? Is that one of those top secret things?
Water.
Always water. Still try to find the water sources.
Well, that's what I would do, you know, is find that water and check on them tracks. You know, I don't use trail cameras.
Yeah.
None of them cameras, you know. If you can read sign, you don't need them cameras.
Yeah.
You know, I don't anyway.
Yeah.
So.
Come on in.
But anyway, usually water is the first place that I check.
Yeah.
Particularly if it's summertime. You know, if it's wintertime and like right today, you know, you really wouldn't care a lion wouldn't care whether there's water there or not.
It's everywhere, yeah.
Yeah, but if it's hot in the summertime, them old panthers, they like to come into that water, you know, sometimes every night, or most of the time every night. Sometimes they'll go a little longer than that, but sometimes they'll come in a couple times in the night. You know, once early in the night and once just a little before daylight.
Is a lot of that when they have a kill close by?
Well, yeah, you know, there is, but a lot of, you know, it's hard to say. There's so many variances in there that I can't tell you, you know, whether you can go to the bank and borrow money on this or that. You know, you just got to kind of do everything the way it plays out, you know.
Sure.
Yeah, well, I've seen them lions in hot country were known. I knew for a fact what was water there, or what water was on this particular mountain range. And I've seen for a fact that 90-degree temperature, if you're bothering a lion and he gets kind of boogered, or maybe you put something there like a sheep camp or a camp trailer or a pickup or a dog by a little spring, you know, he may not come in for 5-6 days. I know he probably wants to real bad, but that's going to hold on, you know, and waiting. And then I've also seen them and were, you know, you could be camped there and have a bunch of dogs tied up there and your mules tied up and your pickup there and have a damn lion sneak in there, get him a little drink of water and ease on out while you was right, you know, at night, of course, while you was right there camped, you know. And,
have you had many depredation calls where you've had to come close to towns and get after a lion? Or
yeah, right in town. And I really don't like that. You know, that's a hard deal to deal with.
Hard thing to turn your dogs loose in an area like that.
Well, you can't turn them loose in town. You know, you got the neighbors all, you know, get them dogs out of here and don't come on here. And that lion might get my kid, you know, and you know, you're better off if you can stay away from them as much as possible. And sometimes I can't, but, you know, we just catch them lions. I don't set traps, but a lot of times I can find the lion without the dogs too.
Oh, okay.
You know, and shoot the lion. So.
They said about a friend of mine up here that said, I asked him, I said, what's his best dog? And he said, well, he's the best dog he's got. He can trail him up himself.
Yeah.
You had a lion jump on you?
Yes.
How did that happen? Tell me that story.
Well.
We need you to come back so you can prompt these. I'm not doing as good a job as you.
Well, I was out hunting one time, and I got this two-way radio in my truck. You know, I can get most anywhere in the state with that radio.
Mm-hmm.
And my radio, you know, broke squelch, and asked me where where I was at, and a lady just got mauled by a lion on the test site out there in Nevada.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, and just as luck would have it, I wasn't very far away. So they said, well, you got to go back to, you know, go in the morning down there and see about it. So anyway, I go back to where I was staying, and I had to take all the excess guns and everything I had out of my truck, you know.
Oh, yeah.
And because I was going to go on this test site, and I had to go that next morning. I got on that test site, went out through the desert, and they wanted me to sign this and sign that and say that I wouldn't say nothing of what I saw. Well, hell, I wouldn't recognize anything, you know, anyway. So anyway, I get out there, and I get up there on that mountain and where that lady was attacked, and I'm looking, and just before I left my truck, I didn't take no dogs with me. I left the dogs in the truck, and I walked up to where this lady was attacked. And, you know, I thought, yeah, maybe I better put my pistol on. As a kind of an afterthought, I got about 20 feet away, and I got thinking about it. And I thought, So I went back and got my gun and my pistol and went up there. And anyway, I found the attack site.
Mm-hmm.
And I could see the blood where the lion had drugged the woman, and found her comb. You know, she had some kind of combs in her hair and hold her hair in place. And I found a bunch of them and found a bunch of stuff there and quite a bit of blood. And as I'm walking around, somehow I heard a little bush crack behind me, and I turned kind of, you know, a little bit and looked. And boy, that old lion was jumping from my head right at that time, you know. Anyway, somehow I throwed my arm up and I got that damn pistol out before that thing got a hold of me, you know. And I shot that lion right in the face at about 6 inches off that pistol barrel, and that ended the story.
What was the lion? What?
It was a female lion.
She real skinny?
Yeah, she was hungry.
Yeah.
Hunger knows no law.
Yeah. Have you ever had close calls like that before?
No, you know, I've had a lion or two get aggressive towards me, a little bit aggressive towards me, but not too bad, you know.
Yeah. Have you ever been out and, been hurt or anything like that, or had to been scared or something? Well,
I got scared a couple of times. I was worried about if I was going to get anything to eat. No, I've had a couple of 3 wrecks, you know, but it was nothing to do with the lion itself. It was all something to do with the terrain, you know, cliffs and,
mm-hmm.
you know, and stuff. And
just slipping and falling, or
yeah,
you ever hurt yourself bad like that, or? Well,
not really too bad.
No.
You know, I think I'm not sure what the most dangerous thing is, but my biggest thing is it isn't getting around in that bad country or falling off a cliff or anything like that. I think I'm a little hard hearing, and I don't hear them rattlesnakes buzz, you know.
Oh no!
And
I think
snakes. Getting bit by a rattlesnake for me is probably one of the biggest dangers for me, because I don't hear a snake buzz.
I could see where that. I killed lots of snakes. Lots of rattlesnakes, and I've killed them. I killed one on Christmas Eve one year.
Oh?
Yeah, after dark. I was riding out of the mountains, and it fell off of a bluff and was rattling when it fell off the bluff, and it was dark, and I remember sitting there thinking, no, just keep on riding. And I thought, no, I can't do it. So I got my flashlight and went back in there in those rocks and killed him, you know. But I get a kick out of these guys that will say that you're not supposed to kill them, and the guys who say you're not supposed to kill them don't live in the same country I live in because we got lots of them.
You know, and I've had several dogs, you know, wounded or bit, you know, and it really done a bunch of damage to them dogs. I've only lost, I think, 2 dogs to rattlesnake bites, but you know, a lot of hide and a lot of meat sloughs off their legs sometimes. And
I just lost a dog to a rattlesnake bite. Probably my only really broke dog. Matter of fact, she was bred. She a couple of generations back, she went to Steve's dogs, and she was real broke. She just barked on a line track. I wasn't convinced she was just going to go catch you a lion, but she'd make sure you knew there was one in the country. And it was my fault. I was up on the side of the mountain, and there was a snake back in the rocks, and this has only been about 3 weeks ago, and he was rattling back in there, and I couldn't get to him, so I thought I'd shoot him. And so I just, I was just carrying a 22 with me, and I shot at him and just nicked him, and that dog had enough game shot to her where she heard that shot, and here she come, she came running to the shot and ran right in there with that rattlesnake, and he bit her on the leg. And I kept her alive. She was already like 12 years old, and I kept her alive for a week, and then she died. She finally died.
A lot of times maybe the best thing to do is just ride off and leave them snakes to their own.
Yeah.
And, and just whistle and take them dogs with you.
That's what I should have done.
If you fool with them snakes, them dogs will be over there, and, I have to leave a lot of snakes alive that way because, I don't want them dogs bit by them damn snakes,
Do y'all have, do you have some areas that are real bad, snaky up there?
Well, some areas, we got them Mojave greens.
Oh, they're aggressive, aren't they?
Yeah, and, kind of rattlesnakes all through that country. This particular summer, I only killed 1 or 2 snakes. However, most years I killed 30 or 40 snakes.
Yeah.
But this year was only 2. But several years ago, I started giving them dogs that red rock.
Oh, do you?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it helps quite a bit?
Oh, I know it does.
Does it?
It helps 25%.
Yeah.
And then plus, I got another medicine that an old veterinary gave me, the recipe down there in Texas, and between that and that red rock, I can save just about every dog.
Yeah. I've had a lot of dogs bit, but they were always bit in the face, and I never had lost a dog that was bit in the face.
Yeah.
But this is matter of fact, I've never lost a dog to a snake bite, but this dog I lost. But she was also bit in the leg, and she was old. She had a lot of age on her, so she was, it was a bad thing. I really liked her too. I'd raised her from a pup, and like I said, she was a pretty good check dog. She would just, those other young dogs get up there and barking on something, she'd just sit there and look at me just like, boss, are you going to let them do that? She didn't. She was pretty good.
Yeah, you get to monkeying around with a gun, and them dogs, get on the, they'll start to looking to see what you see. Yeah.
How, with doing what you do, how broke do you have to have your dogs? Do you keep them just straight lion dogs, or do you ever run a bobcat or?
No, I don't run bobcats much, and furthermore, I don't know how broke I got my dogs, I don't have no trouble with them running deer or elk or coyotes. However, I kind of keep them hunted down. But I know you can break a dog. I feel you can break a dog too much. And the more you break them dogs off of this and that and the other, the less hunt, or the more hunt you kind of take out of them. It's like if you're going to run Mustangs, them old timers used to chase Mustangs all the time, and they didn't want some fancy reining horse. They wanted about half a runaway horse. That's the only thing you really catch them Mustangs. And I've got some dogs at my house, that are dirty, wound up. They drive most people completely crazy. To me, they're just right, and they're the ones that's catching them lions for me.
Have you ever had dogs that cold trail a coyote?
Probably. I don't know if I have or not. I've had a lot of experience with that stuff. Yeah, probably. I don't know if I have or not. I couldn't answer that, and I'm not trying to hide anything.
But you probably get your dogs on so many lions.
Sometimes I do, and sometimes I don't. Sometimes I'll get 50 lions a year, and sometimes a few more. And sometimes it's not very many lions. It kind of depends on what's going on,
Sure. But I have some dogs that I didn't think they did. I'd never heard of that before. But they'll cold trail an old coyote track. And I'd never heard that before. I'd never encountered that. And I had some guys from way down in South Texas tell me, saying, we think your dogs are cold trailing coyotes.
But, let me ask you this. Are you sure they was cold trailing coyote? How old do you think that track was?
I don't know. That's another thing. And how old a lion track do you trail typically? And I know that's conditions have a lot to do with it, but what have you found before as far as?
I know a little bit about that cold trailing.
I bet.
Really, I don't think them dogs could trail a coyote track over an hour or two old.
Really?
It's possible, maybe, but I can tell you about them lions for sure. Not maybe so.
Maybe, but real deal.
Yeah. I can, kind of understand that lion deal a little bit. And it's all a victim of, it's all circumstances. I've seen where them dogs trail them lions a week old. I've seen that track every day for a week, bare ground, and have them trail off with it, and
So what kind of soil are you looking at? Are you looking at it on a rock or?
No, dry ground, kind of in the springtime.
Mm-hmm.
It's drying pretty good, and the moisture's about right. Maybe a little moisture about a half inch down.
Pretty stable conditions,
Yeah.
kind of a fluffy ground.
Yeah, not freezing hard at night,
Mm-hmm.
or not freezing at all at night, But really, for me, I've had them dogs that trail them lions, a pretty old track in the summertime. But for the most part, I usually only catch them lions that's a last night track.
Overnight track.
An overnight track, that night's track. Not all the time, but for the most part, yeah.
On those older tracks, have you been able to trail them all day long, and
well,
or have you just decided not to do it, or?
Well, both. In the summertime, if you're messing around with a 2 to 3 day old lion track, the only time them dogs will really be able to work it much is in shady spots, the bottom of canyons, under some rocks, or in big pine trees where the sun don't hit,
Mm-hmm.
And the chances of catching them lions, I guess, you could always stumble upon them or something like that, but a lot of times it wouldn't be worth your time to fool with it. You'd best be to go on and try to find where that lion went last night.
So what, do you just look at the country and decide that lion's heading to that part of the range, or?
Well, you kind of try to, I don't know, of course, if you see in the track, he's going north or south or east or west, and, kind of get an idea and maybe drift off that direction somewhere.
And I imagine with your experience that when you look at the country, you have a good idea where he's going.
Well, sometimes I get lucky and sometimes I don't.
I was going to say, I'm trying to get it out of him, but the one thing that I have learned and from talking to a lot of guys and Mr. Smith here as well is the good lion hunters just have that sense about where they're going. They just, they have they told me that Mr. Fletcher they said, man, he might not have had the best dogs in the world, but he thought just like a lion did. And that's what I've always heard. And
who did?
Mr. Fletcher, Orville Fletcher. He's kind of a local guy that.
Yeah, I heard the name Well, there's a lot to that story. I think a real good guy that's really savvy about lions and, kind of understands, he's gifted in the first place, and if he just had 2 or 3 mediocre dogs, he could probably still do pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
But for us kind of guys, we need better dogs.
Golly, I still need to find some good ones.
They're out there.
Yeah, I enjoy the process. I like to mess with them and everything. But
yeah,
I like to hear what guys like y'all have to say about it too. I mean, like that. I think a revelation to me was I'd always been told, you're not going to trail no tracks. No, you got to trail an overnight track. You can't trail those older tracks down here in this country or whatever. And a friend of mine had a game camera up, and I started a lion track, and I trailed right through that game camera. And I pulled the card on it, and I looked, and I was 36 hours behind that lion.
Mm-hmm.
And I trailed that lion all day long. I never did catch up to him,
mm-hmm.
but I trailed him all day long. And I thought, man, all these times I was thinking that I couldn't trail that old of a track. And I was. I mean, a lot of times I probably was, and where I was blaming my dogs maybe for not moving the track good enough or something.
Well, you got to be kind of aware of that. I place down there in my country that I hunt quite a bit. And so one day this old boy come by and hunting. He had some dogs. He was from California, and he was an old gentleman, but had been hunting a long time. And he says, why don't you go with me today, or let me go with you? And I said, okay. So him and I took off on our mules and made a little circle in there. And this guy wanted to buy a dog from me. So anyway, we hit this damn lion track, and we trailed this thing clear out over this mountain, down into a canyon down in there. And we was still coming over the top. When we got on top, we could hear them. They was treeing. I didn't hear the jump. I don't know how it went.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, they was treeing. So we go down there, and we got this young lion in this tree. I was pretty sure we had a last night lion track.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, we didn't shoot the lion. We just let the dang thing go, and circled on back to camp. It was quite a ways back to camp. We rode back by the road. So he says, why don't you come hunt with me tomorrow? And I said, no, I can't come for 4 or 5 days. I got to go such a place. Well, he says, do you think you can come this next weekend? I said, I should be able to. So anyway, I go back that next weekend, and I took a different bunch of dogs. We made a little circle back there on that mountain. And on the same ridge that we started that lion track, a whole different bunch of dogs, my dogs, started a lion track. It's springtime. Conditions is pretty good. And them dogs started trailing off. And I tell this old boy, I said, man, they're walking the same damn place that lion did last week, and we trail on and on. Them dogs go over the same pass. And, dropping off, we got out on top. We got down there, and it was total silence, and we rode right up to that very same tree, and there all them damn dogs is around that tree. I told him, I said, this ain't very good, but it ain't bad. And I just whistled and got the hell out of Dodge,
I'll be there.
But so, in certain circumstances and certain conditions, them dogs can really amaze you. And then, in certain circumstances, when you think that they ought to trail good and catch this line or at least go a long ways, things don't turn out as like you planned. Maybe they can't even start the darn thing.
You think that is much just due to conditions, or?
Yeah, lots of things on that. And Steve and I have talked about this many, many times. And there's a few things that's pretty much unanswered, and I don't know. In our lifetime, there'll never be anybody that can answer this legitimately.
What's that? Just
what
causes it?
The scent conditions. What you think they'll burn this track up, they can't touch it. No, it's not always that way, But
yeah. And
when you think, they can't go with this, hell, they'll just run off with it sometimes, Anyway, there's a lot of variances in it.
Sure.
Sometimes there's no answer for.
What the conditions are when you're there, what the conditions were like when the lion walked through there, what the lion had done prior to that. I mean, I would imagine that a lion with a belly full would leave a lot more scent and whatever he's doing.
So. They say that. Yeah.
I don't know. You think about all there, like you said, there's just so many variables that could affect it, I guess.
You know, one time out on the desert, a guy called me up and asked me if I'd come down. The lion killed a bunch of sheep down there that night. He called me early in the morning. I said, yeah, I'll just catch my mule and be down there. And I have to drive south about 200 miles. But, you know, it was around the 15th of April. I can remember that because I was hanging around the house. My son was about to be born, you know, so I'm hanging around there pretty close. And so I get down there and there's all these dead sheep laying there, and this lion that drug these sheep over and covered them up and this and that and the other. And I could see where that old lion walked off, you know, and I had about 6 or 7 dogs, good dogs. Well, I thought they was good dogs. Well, they was good dogs. You know, they'd caught a lot of game for me. And them dogs couldn't even switch their tail, you know, and it just kept getting a little more ridiculous. Finally, I get off my mule, and I'm leading my mule, and I'm following along this line track, talking to these dogs, trying to get them started on this. Boy, them dogs would smell and smell and smell and smell and smell, and they couldn't touch that track. They couldn't even wiggle their tail. So I thought, well, all right, mister, you want to fight, eh? So anyway, I went home. The next morning, I come back down there. I left a couple hours early, and I come back down. I brought 18 good lion dogs. Good lion dogs. 18 of them sons of a guns. They couldn't do no more than the 6 could. And I trailed that lion by hand 2/3 of a day. And finally, you know, it just disappeared into the wild blue yonder. I never got a dog bark out of this track. And I mean, and that lion had been back that night. The second night, he'd come back and drug another sheep from over here, drug it up and buried it right beside the one that he had buried yesterday. I said, I never caught that lion. And, you know, when lions is young and they're kind of thin, you know, been kicked off their mother, it's kind of hard, you know, to trail them a lot of times.
Yeah.
I don't know what the hell the deal was. Boy, I thought was pretty good dogs, and I did have good dogs. And anyway, I just counted that up for experience and went on.
But that one you remember.
Yeah, I can always remember the ones that got away. A hell of a lot better than I can remember the ones I caught.
What do you think about all these guys using these game cameras nowadays?
Well, I don't know. I never needed one myself.
That's an understatement. He's really nice when he says that.
Yeah, I don't think it's necessary. You know, if I can't go to wherever and look and see if there's any tracks there, I sure as the hell don't need a camera to tell me.
Yeah.
End of story.
Yeah. I think a lot of these, I guess, you know, guys who have full-time jobs, that they'll hang cameras and now they got these cell phone cameras that send the picture to your phone. So, you know, I mean, but still you have to be smart enough to know where to hang them at, you know?
Well, I know it. And, you know, I don't know, you know, I've caught lions, all kinds of country, you know, and shot them and killed them. But I still like to do it fair.
Yeah.
I don't like to, I don't want some phone tell me there's a lion that's such and such a place 15 minutes ago, you know, 5 minutes ago. If I'll jump in my truck and run over there, I got a 5-minute old track.
That's not fair.
I don't like to do that.
So how much do you help your dogs with a track when you go out and do you always find the track, make sure you're going the right direction and everything?
Yeah. You know, I find that track, 40% of the time.
Do you?
Yeah. And then I always, if I can catch them, you know, if I can, I'll check and see which way the line's going. If I can.
How about trailing ones backwards? Does that happen very often or?
You know, some it's happened, yeah. And myself, I don't like to trail backwards.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people don't mind trailing backwards.
Just as long as they're trailing. Yeah.
Yeah, as long as there's sense, you know, that. But I particularly don't like to do it myself.
Yeah. I would say sometimes I'm just, as long as I know it's a lion, I'm pretty happy we're trailing.
Going whichever direction.
Yeah, man, the dogs are trailing. I'm pretty tickled. Huh. So I heard Warner Glenn say one time, these dogs are just as likely to trail one backwards as they are forward. Do you believe that, or do you think some dogs get a knack of going the right direction?
All right. I believe, and boy, this is a point that can be argued
Sure.
from the end of time.
Sure.
I believe if a dog has got more chance. You know, a dog likes to start trailing the direction you're traveling.
Okay.
So if I'm traveling right out through here, going that way, and a lion coming this way, and them dogs headed up there, that dog don't like to come back past me and go out this way. They want to go the way they're going.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but when you're traveling through the country, I think they're more likely to probably go the right way. But I've had dogs that would go the right way 100 yards and turn around and go the wrong way. You know, good dogs. I mean, at one time didn't do that. Various assorted things made them start doing that. And
what do you believe? Do you have an idea what those things are that would cause them to start doing that?
Well, like one day, I had this really good lion dog. I called him Ringo, and I hit a lion track on a rainy day in the morning early, and them dogs went up, and I seen the track right away. And this lion can't be 10 minutes ahead of me, you know. So I'm going to kill this thing. I'm going to get this lion's skin here in a few minutes. And anyway, them dogs went up, and I believe that lion jumped up in a tree or got on a ledge right there. And them dogs, you know, messed around in there. And that Ringo made a little circle and got on that track going backwards. And he never did do that before. And that son of a bitch come back past me and went out this other way, trailing that lion track backwards. You know, I couldn't stop him. I couldn't stop that dog. And from that day on, I finally got him rounded up. But from that day on, that dog would always start a lion track most of the time the right way and turn and go the wrong way with it.
I'll be dang.
And he was a good lion dog, a really good lion dog. And I got rid of him because of it, you know, and he was my bread and butter dog for a long, long time.
I'll be dang. I wonder what caused that.
Something in their little brain. You know, a dog's brain ain't got that many wrinkles in it.
No, that's true. How about lions walking back over their own tracks?
Yeah, you know, a lot of them dogs, Steve had a bunch of dogs that was real good at, you know, them lions go out and on a little point and look around or something, and then coming back over their own tracks, you know, and go the other way for 100 yards and then go off, you know, not trying to hide their tracks. That was just on their daily hunt. You know, and he had probably as good a dog as anybody or better than most at straightening that stuff out.
Figuring it out.
Them dogs of mine, particularly when I started breeding that macho blood into them dogs wanted to go ahead, and you'd better be going the right way. Because they're going to go that way, you know. And most of the time that was right, but them dogs was bad not to want to turn around. And they still are bad, but still, you know, I'm not going to lose my job anytime soon because I don't catch lions.
That's good. That's good. So you think there's less lions now than there used to be?
Yes, sir.
And just it could be not necessarily the more hunters, but just the conditions.
I'll tell you what, it's a combination of several things that causes these lion numbers to disappear. You know, One of them's game numbers. One of them, a few more. There's more hunters. And when they had bobcat season, them bobcat trappers caught a lot. Now, a lot of my friends are bobcat trappers or trappers.
Mm-hmm.
I ain't not particularly cussing anybody, and I'm just telling you what I feel.
Sure.
Yeah. The deer number, and then I think that the fish and game are overestimating the lion numbers for another thing.
Mm-hmm. I've heard that from several people in different states, different locations.
Mm-hmm.
That, of course, the lions don't make them any money, so they're not. They overestimate numbers, put out more tags, and then.
Well, yeah.
And then the snow hunters, matter of fact, Henry McIntyre told me one time, back years ago, he said I could catch a lion with a poodle up there in that snow.
Yeah, and I feel like I could too. I don't even need a damn dog to catch a lion.
In the snow, yeah. I don't know about, how he had just assumed that when I went down there to try to buy a dog from him that I was from up in the snow country, and that's what he'd said. But
yeah, I knew Henry.
Did you?
Yeah.
Well, y'all traded dogs a few times, didn't you, or did you not, or did you hunt with him, or?
Well, I hunted with Henry one time for 4 or 5 days. We caught a couple of lions together.
Really? Were you down? Did you go down in Texas, or?
Yeah.
I'll be dang. Down there around Valentine, or?
Mm-hmm.
I'll be dang. Did you enjoy that country, or?
Yeah.
Just, I have a good friend of mine that hunts some of that country.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have. I sold old Henry a dog underneath the tree one day.
Did you really?
Yeah, we started this line track, and I had this dog with me. I took him down there, and not to sell. He was a good dog. Anyway, we'd ride up there, and them dogs hit with this line and killed a deer. And this dog that I had just grabbed that line track and run off over the country with it, just going on, and gone out of here. And 2 minutes, this dog was gone out of here, and he had a big voice on him. And we're messing around there, and I tell Henry, I said, Henry, we best get going. That dog around down here says he's going to catch this lion. So anyway, we took off at a big old high trot, and we go down this canyon and around this big long point. It took us quite a while to get around there. We go around this point, and Henry said, hey, stop. So we stopped, and all of a sudden, here this dog of mine comes right off this point. He'd come the full length of that ridge, come off this point. There was a big old net wire fence there. And that dog jumped that net wire fence right in front of us. Come right up to it and jumped that fence. And just went up this other ridge this way and gets up there about 100 yards and just stopped and started treeing in this oak tree. And we tied our mules right there to that net wire fence. We walk up there and we got this damn lion treed and one dog tree in there. So we sat there for about 20 minutes. We can't hear another dog. Henry says, I've been thinking, why don't you sell me that dog? I said, no, Henry, I ain't going to sell that dog to you. Well, you ought to sell me this dog. And so I don't know how well you knew Henry.
I met him 2 times.
So anyway, Henry always had a big roll of money in his pocket. Great big roll of money. So old Henry, we're sitting there on a dead log at this lion. And old Henry reaches in his pocket and he pulls out this roll of $100 bills like this. He licks his thumb. He started counting that money off, and he counted $3,000 out, and then he'd look at me like that, and I'd go like that. He'd lick his thumb. I'm going to tell you something. I don't remember what, but I took most of his roll. And he kept the dog.
I wonder what dog that was. I heard he had a couple running dogs, Flag and Easy.
Uh-huh.
I think that I heard that were pretty. And of course, his Newt dog, which came from Steve.
Well, this dog here was before any of them. This was back 1980, maybe 1983 or 4.
I'll be dang. Yeah, I met Henry in about that time, about 83 or something. I remember going to his place down there in Valentine, and he had lions in cages out there.
Uh-huh.
He had some cages with lions, and I remember this big old Tom lion in a cage with a piece of plywood and a cinder block on top of the cage, and I don't know what he was doing with them, but I know he had a stack of horns out there in the back of deer horns and those goat horns and all kinds of horns, and he gave them to me. And back at that time, I was so broke. I didn't have any money whatsoever. And those horns, I sold those horns at the flea market to an old boy down there at the flea market. I'd take a couple of those horns down there and sell them to him every week, and kind of made me gas money for a while. Yeah. Henry, he was, and at that time, he was real nice to me. He was real, we drank coffee and talked and everything. And then when I went back and seen him later on, it was probably, I don't know, maybe 15 years later or whatever. And I don't think he was in very good health. And he talked to me. He was pleasant, but he didn't. He was in a hurry. He was excited to see me leave. I'll put it that way. Yeah, I think it was just. Yeah, I don't think he felt good. I think he needed to rest.
You know, I always got along with Henry, and everybody said that he was a grouchy old guy, and but he wasn't grouchy with me.
Yeah.
You know, he just wasn't grouchy with me. You know, if he was a little grouchy, you know, I don't know what I'd tell him, but it wasn't very good, you know, and he wasn't grouchy anymore.
Well, I'm sure that you had, you know, there was probably a mutual respect. And here, I was just a big old kid that just showed up and was asking about lion hunting and lion hounds. And he probably... Yeah.
Henry had got some dogs from Warner, and I think he got some from Steve, and he got 2 or 3 dogs from me over the years, and you know, I was actually good to Henry, you know, good to him.
I always heard that if Henry knew of a good dog, that he would pay the money for a good dog. Yeah. That it didn't bother him to, like you said, that roll of money, he would flip it out and buy a good dog.
Yes, sir.
That's the name of the dog. He named it Buhler.
Oh, he named the dog Buhler?
What'd he say?
He named your dog. He named the dog he got from you Buhler.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Are you tired, Smith?
No, I'm enjoying this.
Well, come on in here, goddammit. I need somebody to pour some whiskey for us.
We got another set of headphones in here.
I'll tell you what, this is worth like thousands of dollars to listen to.
Well, get your money out, Smith.
I know he's got. I know he's got loads of stories to tell, and of course I have a hard time. I go back and forth. I have a hard time staying within the subject matter at the time.
Well, you know, Smith and I, we have a good time. Thanks, Steve, and we enjoy spending time, and we enjoy talking on the phone, and yeah, we just enjoy each other's company.
Yeah, that's, you know, I got
and I like you cooking.
I got a circle of, you know, friends that, you know, and I'm sure y'all do it too, and probably do it at a lot higher level than we do, but we call and we just discuss things that have happened and dogs and where we're going and what we're doing and stuff like that. And it's guys that you can kind of trust and guys that you enjoy, you enjoy their honesty, because there's so many guys that, I've had guys call me up and ask to buy a dog from me, and then they tell me they caught 40 lions last year. And I said, why in the world do you want to buy a dog from me? If you caught that many lions, I'm going to go get your dogs.
Yeah. Well, that's the deal with old Steve and I. We've known each other, I don't know, quite a few years, but during them years, we've got a lot of dog stories, and we know a lot of the same people, and pretty much it's just been good for both of us, I'd say, and
sure.
Yeah.
Well, you guys are, I mean, being able to hear stories from you guys have done it for so long and you've seen so much that it's beneficial. I mean, and me from a selfish point of view, like I told you, I just enjoy that I'm here and being able to, I can share it with other people, but I do it for myself too. So I can hear the stories and try to glean a little bit of knowledge that I can use myself.
Yeah. Steve, why don't you put a set of these headphones on?
Don't worry about it.
No, I'm going to get it done.
You got to finish up.
We might not be done. We might still be talking tomorrow.
Yeah, well, this might be a 5-part series here. All right. So we'll start it right now. Mr. Smith came in the house here, or in the cabin, and he's going to tell us a story about Mr. Buhler.
You know what? I forgot the story already. I'm going to listen to you guys some more. I've been enjoying it. I've been in there listening to it. Yeah.
Well, we've had a good conversation so far. I know there's lots more stories in there, and because 49 years of hunting lions for the company alone.
Yeah, but I hunted a lot of bear and lynx, Canadian lynx too, prior to that.
Up there in Idaho?
Yeah.
I'll be dang. How are they to hunt compared to everything else?
Well, I don't know. I always went in and I hate to hunt afoot, but I had to hunt on afoot at in that area, on account of snow and or snowshoes. And man, I'll tell you what, I almost would have took a whipping, but I really wanted to, catch some lynx cats, Canadian lynx. And I go in there, and when I caught a few Canadian lynx and enough to satisfy my appetite. And
do you ever run many bobcats or?
Yeah, I run bobcats. There ain't much I haven't run,
Do you try to break your dog now that you're a line hunter and you have been doing it for so long? Do you try to break your dogs off of bobcats?
My dogs are pretty easily broke off a bobcat. I don't really have much trouble with dogs running bobcats.
Really?
Very little now, unless I promote it.
Is that because you get them on so many lions yourself?
No, I don't know. Bobcats is kind of hard to trail in my country, and in the daytime. And I don't hunt at night much. Mostly hunt in the daytime, almost always in the daytime. The only time I'm out at night is when I haven't made it back yet,
Yeah.
And, yeah.
So have you and Mr. Smith traded dogs before in the past?
Well, Steve gave me, I have 4 or 5 of Steve's dogs at my house. And, over the years, and they really helped me.
Really?
And they're a different type of dog than I had. And they help me because they are different.
In what way? How would you describe that?
Well, the dogs that Steve's got, for me, they help me start them line tracks, and they're pretty damn dependable dogs. They're pretty broke dogs, break easy type dogs, and stay broke. And, you can lay them off for a month or 2 at a time and take them back to the mountain and not have a deer race or a coyote race or anything except the lion track, and they're real good start dogs, and they're real good cold trailers, and they're good tree dogs. They're reliable broke dogs,
With some of your running dog crosses, did you ever have trouble with them treeing?
No.
They all treat all right?
No, I never have had trouble with them dogs. In fact, the only type of dog that I'll breed to is them dogs that'll tree, them running dogs. I have had dogs that wasn't running dogs that didn't tree, but were trailing son of a guns.
Yeah.
And
you want to jump in on some of the dogs, Mr. Smith?
Oh, it's been really, really interesting. You know, everybody's got their own dogs that they go back and like, you know. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you guys talked about Buhler's original dogs going back to Joe House and House's Baldy, and did you guys talk about that?
No.
Anyway, those Walker dogs at that time were just unbelievable. Mm-hmm. And Dale Lee had a pup out of Spring Creek Rock. He told me he could trail with any blue dog that the Lee brothers ever owned. And back at that time, Larry Hendricks bought a dog from Joe House from House's Baldy and Bixler Supreme Sally, and that dog was phenomenal. And a lot of those dogs, or most of those dogs that Buhler's got, I think, came from those dogs originally. And of course, he's done some other stuff with them. And but anyway, it's been a long. I can't remember, Buhler. When did Roy McBride put that little deal together?
Well, I don't know, but it's got to be about 15 years ago,
I'd say. And that was a real neat little deal. And I don't know how many guys were there. What, around 10 guys?
Yeah, there was 9 guys, I think, and that Warner's daughter was going to be there, and then she had to stay and milk the cows.
Yeah.
Well, was that a little gathering that y'all had, or?
Roy McBride put it together, and it was, you know, and I thought when the deal started, I thought, I don't know about that deal. You know, everybody up there had caught more lions and more stature than me, and I was glad to be invited. But I thought, I don't know about going up there to that thing. And I kind of thought, you know, there'll be a bunch of blowhard stuff. And it wasn't that way at all. Yeah. And anyway, and so that's when I met Jim and Leader. And I'd heard of them, but I never had met them. And it was a good deal. You know, we got together and yeah, it was real good.
And did they have that down in Texas there?
No, we had it up to New Harmony, up to Charlie Leader's house.
Oh, okay.
The first one that we did, and we was there for 4 or 5 days, and we cooked out. You know, we barbecued every day and cooked outside most of the time, and ate in the house or ate outside, and we all had different subjects we talked about. You know, and some guys talked about dogs, some guys talked about number of lions, the number of animals that lions kill, multiple kills, and all kinds of different things like that. And it created a friendship with about 9 to 10 different guys around the country. You know, the guys with really probably the most experienced lion hunters in the world.
Oh yeah, I've had people tell me that I need to go down and talk to Mr. McBride, and I don't know him at all. I know he's there in Alpine, Texas, I guess, and he's got a thesis that he wrote on I guess a study that he helped out on lions. The guy's supposed to send that to me, and so they say it's real interesting. I know that he said in that thesis, he said you can, and it's similar to what you had said earlier. He said that, you know, trailing older lion tracks, but the lions you catch are 4-hour-old or younger or less tracks. And I know he said, because a guy sent that to me. He made sure that I seen that part of it. So.
Yeah, that's hard. It's hard to say, you know, about them lion tracks. You know, sometimes you can trail an 8 or 10-hour-old lion track just like a house on fire, you know, and then sometimes a 2-hour-old lion track, boy, you just really struggle with it in the same type of temperature. You know, and people think, well, it's the humidity, it's this and that and the other. There's so many variances in it. You know, and Steve put that better than anybody. He told me one time, he said, you know, we'll never be able to be 100% positive of the answer to that. And he's right, you know. We'll see something today and think, okay, we got this deal figured out, and the next day it'll make a damn liar out of you, you know?
Yeah, the Earl of Suffolk and 1790 something, he wrote that the only thing constant about sin is its inconsistency.
Mm-hmm.
Too many variables, just like Buhler says.
Yeah.
But if you can discern, which Buhler does, it can mean the difference between being successful or not.
Yeah.
And I wrote a little bullshit book. That's what I handed.
Yes, sir.
Anyway, and it's controversial. Scent, you talk about people. I've seen Clell and Dale Lee, rattle the spoons on the table. That's not right, brother. They were brothers,
Arguing with each other.
Yeah, the best there ever was, as far as I know.
Yeah.
And but
you hunted with Dale some, didn't you?
Yeah. Dale called and said, would you hunt my dogs? He said, I'm going to sell them. I said, I'd be glad to do that. And I went and took possession of the dogs. And it took him a year to sell the dogs. And he called me and he said, Riley Miller has bought the dogs. He said, I want you to deliver them. I said, I'll do that. And I said, tell Riley that them dogs barked treat all night and we killed a lion at daylight with that set of dogs.
Oh, we did.
That was that day, yeah. And anyway, everybody had their own guy that they thought was, more than everybody else.
Sure.
If you were at Prescott, it was the Goswicks. If you were in southeast Arizona, and you had a hound dog rig, they'd say, what are you doing down here? This is Warner Glenn's country.
Mm-hmm.
And same deal, this country here, workmen, dominated. But I'll tell you, the Lee brothers were phenomenal. Yeah. Not only as breeders, but the thing that set them apart was 125 Jaguars.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. Set them apart.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you want to say how long you've been messing with the hounds, or?
Yeah, most of my life, since I was 12 years old, and I'm 70. But it took me a long time to get to where I could catch a lion. It didn't come easy for me.
What was it? Just the caliber of dogs you had, or was it you, or combination? Or
I never got around anybody that was a dry ground lion hunter till I was older.
Yeah.
And and I read Full Cry religiously, and I thought I was, pretty much an expert. But anyway, but I was going to say something. I was listening to you guys when I was laying there out next door about the lion numbers. When we went up there to Charlie's, when those 10 guys got together, the consensus was, when they came out of there, everybody agreed, wherever state they were in, and there was Texas and New Mexico and Nevada, Arizona, Utah, lion numbers are always overestimated.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody agreed with that.
Yeah.
And I think it's true. I think that if the department knew what the numbers were, not that we're out of lions,
mm-hmm.
but it's just, they say that there's more than there really is. Yeah, I believe that's true. Yeah.
I mean, do you believe that there should be something done? I mean, do you think that there's...
I think we're going to lose this deal in Arizona.
Do you?
Yeah.
I know they've been trying.
Yeah.
To get rid of it, get rid of the hunting of lions in the last few years, because we contributed to here a couple years ago. They had a big initiative or whatever. They were trying to get rid of it.
Yeah.
And that's when they kind of compromised and took the hunting away for a couple months during the year.
Well, I was actually responsible for that, and that's another whole story, and it'd take a long time to talk about it. But I instigated the summer closure here, and there was a lot of emotion over it. There was a lot of people mad at me over it, but it didn't stop lion hunting. You could still do depredation work in the summertime, but it made it appear that we were trying to protect kittens.
Mm-hmm.
And, but I think in 24 you'll see a ballot initiative come here, and Arizona's not red anymore.
No.
You know, I don't know that we're blue, but we're certainly purple.
Mm-hmm.
And all these prunies that are coming over here, it's going to be hard to not lose it. And I don't know that hound dog guys, you know, they're all genetically flawed. We can't get together and agree on what color the dog is, you know, so we're not a force. But anyway, I'm talking too much. I'm going to be.
No, I agree with you on the hound dog, you know, especially the coon hunters, and the bear hunters to an extent, they all get together and they have big camps and they hunt together and they do. And lion hunters are more of an independent, solitary type person that kind of goes out and does their own thing.
Well, you know, you really can't hunt lions
Pick that up a little bit, please. Thank you.
in big groups.
Yeah.
You know, it don't work out that well. And, you know, the most successful lion hunters in the country is guys that ease through the mountains with these mule or dogs or horse or whatever, you know, and, kind of easing around and catches a lion. And most of the time he's not very boisterous, you know.
Yeah.
He's not down there, you know, telling how the cow ate the cabbage. And, yeah.
It's a different deal, you know, and I found that out. But the thing that I think that's what has attracted me to it more than, you know, the coon hunting or the bear hunting, because for the most part, I mean, I get a lot of enjoyment out of just riding through the hills and and deciding where I'm going to go, you know, and not having a bunch of guys say, oh, let's go here, let's go there, or whatever. I just like to kind of pick my own way and figure it out.
Well, Steve always said that the lion hunters is the most elite group in the country. And I believe him. You know, I had never looked at it that way. You know, I was always busy doing my own little thing, which, you know, was out in the hills somewhere by myself, usually, you know, fighting the elements and cold and windy and sunburnt and whatever. And, you know, Steve kind of put it in words for me.
Yeah.
That I could understand. And, yeah, and I've been preaching.
You'll get the bobcat hunters that, you know, of course, that no matter who you talk to, everybody will say that their own area has the toughest conditions. You know, they'll just, and the bobcat hunters, you know, from the northeast, you know, they'll say, oh, anybody can catch a lion. You can catch a lion with anything. But I think, you know, they don't know what conditions are like down in this country. And then, you know, and then you got those guys up there that hunt bobcats, and then you got the guys down in southwest Texas down there, and you know, they catch a ton of bobcats. I mean, that friend of mine, he caught 70-something bobcats last year. But they got bobcats like we got jackrabbits.
Yeah, well, and you know, something else is, you know, them guys hunting them bobcats down there or hunting them bear, for the most part, are riding around in pickup trucks.
Mm-hmm.
They're in pickup trucks at night and pickup trucks in the morning. Most of the time, we're not in pickup trucks. You know, we're up on that mountain.
Humidity.
Yeah.
Most of them guys, dogs run with their heads up.
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell you the guys' names, but 3, I think, famous bobcat hunters came and hunted with me, and really good guys.
Mm-hmm.
And and they told me, they said, you know, we're going to bring our dogs out here, and they're just going to run plumb away from your dogs and just leave and go catch the lion. I said, well, if that happens, I said, I'm going to buy the dogs.
Yeah.
And they said, well, if we didn't want to sell them, I said, I'd go ahead and kill you guys and take the dogs. No, I'm serious.
I like that. I like
Well, it's true.
So that's what I got to go. I'm scared to death.
You don't bring your dogs up here, do you?
But anyway, them guys all came, and we would trail depending, you know, there's so many variables about the scent deal, but we would trail sometimes 2 hours and sometimes 4 hours, and them dogs never whipped their tails. They didn't know anything was there.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, when it got to where, you know, it got getting ready to catch the thing, they'd run off and leave my dogs. You know, they were freer and had value. But, it's a different deal altogether. It's not something that's good or bad. It's like it's apples and oranges. They're all fruit. And, but generally speaking, it takes different kind of dogs in a pack. It doesn't hurt to have one that is long on something and another one that's long someplace else.
So you think it's a benefit to probably have a mixed pack?
Well, I breed, you know, my whole life I've bred to breed the best dog that could be.
Yeah.
And that he can do it all. Mm-hmm. But that's rare.
Yeah.
Them things don't come around much. And
in this country, you would emphasize in your breeding probably more on nose, wouldn't you? I mean,
you know, there's dogs in this country that are colder than my dogs. Mm-hmm. By quite a bit. In other words, my dogs are not necessarily, you know, that say, well, those dogs are real cold. No, they're cold enough to catch a night old lion track. Mm-hmm. But a lot of those old real cold those dogs don't care if they put anything on the end. And a lot of them are not too smart, and they're just content to trail. Mm-hmm. And the dogs that Buhler's got and the dogs that I've got, their only reason they're trailing is to put something on the end.
They want to see the end of it.
Yeah. And they're smart. Mm-hmm. That's another, you know, they might have to do something to think it over to get it done. Yeah.
Do you think a lot of that is genetics, or do you think that is because you guys have been able to show them enough lions where they know that there is something at the end of that track?
Genetics.
You think it's genetics?
Yeah.
I think so.
They're born. And it's just like racehorses and milk cows. So, so one day the Lee brothers were traveling, and back then, you know, no cars. They were riding horses and had a wagon or whatever. And here comes Lily, and they meet. And Dale told me, said, Lily come over there and said, would it be all right if I could look at your dogs? And they said, oh, yeah, that'd be fine. So he walked through the dogs, and he stopped over there and came back and looked at this one dog. He said, I'd like to breed to that dog right there. And Dale says, why is that? And he said, because that's the smartest dog here. And Dale said it was the best dog we owned. You know, that's amazing.
How did he know that?
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah.
So it's that brain. It's that brain along with everything.
Yeah, you know, there's so many things involved. You know.
But brains is the starting point.
Yes. You can't have a stupid dog. You can't fix it.
Yeah. You know, brain
you can't fix stupid.
No.
And a physical tough dog. Not to fight, but to endure.
Yeah, to endurance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the two most important things that you want.
It's kind of like that video I have of Henry McIntyre. They ask him, you know, what do you want in a good dog? He said a big heart and good feet.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess that makes sense. That's interesting. That I don't know. We always sit around and talk about dogs, and of course our knowledge is pretty limited. But man, you guys, how many years have you been? You're 70, how old, Mr.
I'm 70 years old.
70 years old, and you've been running hounds since you were 12, 13 years old?
12 years old, but I wasn't catching lions consistently till I was 32.
What do you think clicked? What caused getting into better dogs, or did your education?
I got a good dog.
You got a good dog.
Yeah. That was the whole deal. Yeah.
Where'd you get that dog?
It's a long story, and we'll tell one of these days. I'll tell you, but it's
see, I'm gonna have to come back.
It's a long story, but them things are born.
They're born.
Yeah, them things are. you know, and a lot of it, you know, Hendricks used to hunt across the river, and we'd raise a litter. They were the same dogs.
Mm-hmm.
And, and Larry would always catch 25 lines every winter, and I would always catch 12 or 14.
Mm-hmm.
And y'all are hunting basically the same country?
He was hunting the north-facing hillside. He had a little better country to trail in as far as trailing conditions was such. And he hunted every day. You know, I had a ranch.
You had a ranch to run, yeah.
But Hendricks was twice as good a line hunter as I was. That's the truth of the matter. But we'd get, at the end, he'd always say, hey, come over and we'll go catch a line together. So we'd have these pups that'd be 2-year-olds and 4-year-olds and that we'd raised and split.
Mm-hmm.
And his dogs was always better. So they were all good dogs. But, you know, Buhler catches 50 lines in the summer. That's
phenomenal.
That's, you know, that you can't take that experience away from it.
No.
It's just unbelievable what it does for you.
Or making dogs. I mean,
Yeah.
Lord have mercy.
Yeah.
They get to look at that many lions.
I
I can only imagine catching that many lions, how good your dogs could be.
Yeah.
Well, they're sharp and they're wore down. They're sharp and
Wore down. I've heard you say that now 3 times. And that's when you say they're wore down, that means they're less likely to be trashing and dicking around and doing stupid stuff.
well, what I call wore down is a dog that's been hunted, hard, and he don't have no nonsense about him. He's not barking off track, not overrunning the track. He's hunting, and them dogs get about half tired. Sometimes they get more deliberate.
Yes.
When they get really, really deliberate and, I guess that's the only way of putting it. But I had this dog named Cedar. I would imagine that dog had seen 400 lions at the time he was too old,
Wow.
And I'd hunt that dog 100 to 140 days in a row without ever a day off.
Wow.
And that son of a bitch could catch a lion coming, going, flying through the air.
Tough.
Tough. He didn't give a damn. He'd catch that thing. That's his job. And he was one of them walkers that come out of that house blood. And fact is, he was one of the first ones. And he wasn't a very big dog, but at dark you could start a line track at daylight on bare ground, 100% daylight, or 100%, last night line track, and come nightfall, you might be 15, 18 miles away with that track, and he's still trailing that line like he's been trailing it 15 minutes, only he's been trailing it 10 or 12 hours, and he trailed it on a run.
Yeah.
He didn't walk when he trailed it.
Mm-hmm.
He loped when he cold trailing. And he might pick that thing up a tree at any time, and you just have to be tough enough to stay with that little
Get to him.
And every dog that I got now, with the exception of the dogs that come from Steve, go back to that dog. And
So you guys are talking about going back to some of those, the house Bali, and those were pretty prominent coon dogs. Mm-hmm. Do you think any of that blood is still available to where people could go back? Do you think the coonhound breed, or the coonhound dogs or coon dogs have been bred so much for competition now that they're not worth breeding to?
Well, they went downhill, that's for sure.
Because of the competition styles.
Yeah, and we're not trying to go back to them. We're trying to move forward.
If I knew that I could buy a dog like Buhler was talking about, or like that cross when Hendricks brought that dog from House's Baldy and Bixler Supreme Sally, I'd buy one in a minute.
Really?
Oh, hell, I'd spend a whole bunch of money on it.
And, and I can tell you, like, we bred a dog out of Clell Lee's Cougar and a gold coin Jip. Larry Hendricks had the dog. And unbelievable lion dog. I'd give $25,000 to breed to that dog today. Oh, I'd give more than that.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah.
That big a difference.
Well, it's got to be, Brett, where a lot of this stuff that's going around right now, Ben Lilly couldn't make a dog out of them. In other words, the hound deal has regressed.
Yeah.
Racehorses run faster. You know, everybody has done more. The athletes do more. And, but people got to breeding hounds. This is my own personal opinion, that quit hunting them.
Yeah.
And, you know, a guy shouldn't breed a hound that you can't catch a lion with.
That's true.
You know, there's the deal. And, anyway, but the hound deal, when I was a kid here, there was 10 or 12 dry ground lion hunters, and you could go to any of them and buy a pup from them and had a good chance that the dogs would trail. You could make lion dogs out of them. And that's simply not true today. A lot of these dogs, I don't know, what do you think, Buhler? Would you concur to that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
You'd just be wasting your time. Yeah.
People don't know what good lion dogs are now. Not every, most of the guys that's got dogs run around with a snowmobile and, looking around, and they don't understand. But that's good that they don't understand.
Well, I've been listening to this deal, and Buhler has been giving you guys a few nuggets that I didn't think he'd give, And,
well, I try to ask the right questions.
You're asking the right questions, but there's just more demand. There's more people, and modern mechanization has taken away the skill that people used to have.
Yeah.
It's just ruined it. And less lions and lazy.
Yeah.
Work ethic. You get up at 3:00 in the morning and feed the mules, for 300 days out of the year. You're looking at the only guy around here that's caught 1,000 lions.
Yeah.
That's it right there. There's Buhler.
Yeah. And that's, like when I was talking to him before about when he went into an area, he camped right there, slept on the ground and might hunt that area for 90 days, to clean it up. Man, I go out and I hunt for 2 days. I got to go back to work Monday morning.
Yeah.
Go back to work and stay there.
Yeah. Those old Lee brothers, they'd catch all the lions in a mountain range, and then they'd drive 20 head of horses, 30 miles to the next mountain range. They got over there wasn't any cold Bud Light or fat cow meat. They had to kill one of them mares to feed the dogs. It was tough.
Yeah.
They were hungry. The dogs were hungry. Yeah. And when they caught something, it was a celebration. They got to eat again.
Yeah.
I sent those tapes up there to Buhler of Dale. And anyway, and I got to thinking, Buhler and I, we're going to die here. It ain't going to be too long. But Buhler's got a world of information.
Yeah.
Yeah. That he learned when he was 16 years old. See, and so he's known it so long that he thinks that you know it too.
And you're exactly right about this. I mean, that a lot of things you don't know that you assume that everybody else knows too. But it's those little things that will make big differences.
And that's always a big deal on that hunting lions. It's not a one big thing. It's a whole series of small things. Making the right moves at the right time. Starting with getting up in the morning.
Yep.
And just making them right moves.
I mean, if y'all were going to get up and go hunting tomorrow morning, we had the rain and everything. I always heard that Henry McIntyre said that after it rains like that, you shouldn't hunt don't even mess around with it for 3 days. Is that?
Yeah, that's kind of true.
Is that about right?
I kind of think so.
Yeah, that's true. Thomas is going to come over here and torture us tomorrow and make us go. But
he just wants to see us. That's all that's amounting to. He just wants to spend time with us. But it isn't really about catching lions. it's for Thomas. He just wanting to spend time with us.
Yeah, but
good.
He may not even put it in words, but Steve and I already know what the little asshole's got on his mind.
he's
Excuse me.
That's all right. We're not
but this kid is unbelievable.
really.
Yeah,
Gets after it.
Oh,
That was the kid that followed us down today, you know. And, yeah.
he's unbelievably talented.
Really.
Yeah.
And that talent is just is it the desire to do it?
You know, it's something I think most people, the good ones, are born with, and the ones that aren't born with it can get to be mediocre at best. But the ones that are born with it are the ones that
just made me feel bad, right?
I'll tell you.
I'm just teasing.
I watched it, you know, and Buhler, he hadn't said, you know, he hadn't told you nothing. He was not going to try to. But when everything's impossible, you've trailed all day and you think, I'm going to catch this line, and then all of a sudden you got this horrible lose. And you think, what the hell happened here, you know? And there's all these variables. And then in the end, I've sat there and watched old Hendricks, and he'd turn his head, and he'd ride off and call the dogs. And he'd go over there about a half a mile, and we'd catch a line. Buhler does the same thing every day. And he'll make a decision. You don't know why. He'll say, come on, dogs, we're going to go on.
Yeah, and maybe he don't know. Maybe
Hendricks don't know either if you ask him.
It's intuition.
Well, it's
just something that comes to you.
Yeah.
It's something you're born with.
Yeah, Workman was that way. I don't have it. You know, I had to plod along and follow the dogs.
Yeah.
And, but I've seen guys. Dale was unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. And when I first hunted the day first I hunted with him, I thought, this is a magic show. Yeah, this guy's a clairvoyant. I thought, I don't know, all the basis that I believed in was all went up in smoke watching old Dale the first day.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember I talked to you on the phone one time, and you told me about Dale telling you, do you want to hunt where the lion's been, or do you want to hunt to where he went to?
Yeah.
About going to a mountain range or something. Do you remember that story? Could you repeat it?
So I had a hunter, one-armed guy from Wisconsin. His name was Walter Rail, and his wife was named Beth, and really a nice gentleman. All his life, all he wanted to do, catch a lion. And he didn't have a lot of money. And but he finally decided. He started calling me and writing me letters, and I told Dobbs, I said, this guy's going to be a problem, you know. Anyway, so they came, and he had a big old bus that barely got in there, and Beth was scared. They couldn't get out the road. And anyway, so Dale was there at the ranch, and I was hunting his dogs. And it rained, but it broke at midnight. I got up, and so I went over there, fed the horses early, and went over there, and Dale was up, and I said, you're going to ride today, Dale? He was on that oxygen. You know, so he'd have a hard time breathing. He said, yeah. I said, I think I'm going to try to ride today, see. So I thought, well, we'll go, first day of the hunt, we'll try to go a little shorter circle, you know. So we were coming in, and it wasn't late, you know, it was probably 1 o'clock. And I see this Dale's Joe dog smelling pretty high on the brush, and I knew, you know, immediately this was a phenomenal strike dog. I turned around to tell Dale Joe's about to strike on a lion, and Dale was, you know, looking at the dog. I didn't have to say nothing. Well, I ran over there, and there's a scratch, and the scratch is going south.
Going the other way. And we'd been riding on the track. See, and they couldn't smell it. It was made, you know, probably 7 or 8 o'clock, and it rained on it and cleared. We'd been riding on the track. We couldn't see it. There was rocky and stuff, but Joe could still smell it on that brush. So we went on in and unsaddling, and it started raining. Rained a little bit more. And anyway, Dale says, where do you think that line's at? I said,
I pointed down there, and this is my country. Mm-hmm. You know, I've caught not a lot of lions, but
enough, yeah.
I've caught some lions there. And I showed him down there, McGee Mountain. I said, that lion's down there on McGee Mountain right now. Dale, he didn't say nothing. This is the first day he's ridden there. He don't know nothing about this country, see? So I got to thinking about it, and I said to Dale, I said, about an hour later, I said, where do you think that lion's at, Dale? He said, that's really not your problem. He said, your problem is where's that lion going to be tomorrow? I said, well, I guess that's right. He said, well, that is right. And I said, so what do you think Dale ought to do? He said, that lion will go right back up that ridge and scratch to the north tonight. So I got up in the morning. I said, you going to ride, Dale? He said, where are you going? I said, I'm going down there to McGee Mountain. He said, I figured that. Well, I went down there and rode all day and never hit nothing. It started raining, and old Beth got up in the bridle, wanted out of there, afraid they couldn't get the motor home out. So the hunt's over. It's about 3:30. Dale come out there, and I went over there and threw my saddle on another horse. He said, what are you doing? I said, I'm going up there to that ridge and see if that lion went back up that ridge like you said. I said, I can't sleep tonight not knowing. So I come in around, it was dark, but I got up there before dark, and that lion went back up that ridge to the north. So I came in there, you know, and I thought, well, I'm not going to say nothing to Dale. I'm going to make him ask, you know. Pretty soon he couldn't take it any longer, you know. He said, well, did you find that lion? I said, yeah, he went back up that ridge like you said, Dale. He said, I said, what I want to know is how come you knew that and I didn't? And he said, well, that's easy. He said, I'm a lion hunter and you're not. And then old Dale, he wouldn't give you nothing. He wouldn't give. He said, now I'm going to ask you a question. I said, all right, Dale. He said, why do lions scratch? I said, well, I guess I don't know. He pointed at me. He said, you need to figure that out, son, if you want to be a lion hunter.
What did he say, Steve?
So why do they scratch?
He said, why do they scratch?
Oh, yeah.
Why do lions scratch is what he asked me. And I said, well, I guess I don't know. And he said, well, you need to answer that if you're going to be a lion hunter.
Yeah.
And he said, that goes with why I knew that, see. And
so why do lions scratch?
You know what? I'm not going to tell you.
Oh.
I'm going to play a Buhler on you.
That's not fair.
Yeah, it is fair. It's all fair, buddy. And I got to go feed my dog.
Oh, now he's going to bug out.
But I enjoyed it, guys.
He's going to bug out now. That's not right. There's something not right about that.
Hey, guys.
Oh,
thank you.
Are you going to go feed them dogs?
Yeah, I'm going to go feed.
Can you give mine a flake?
Yes, I'll do everything.
Thank you, Steve.
Oh, me.
More, Brett.
Okay, thank you.
And if you want to come down here for some coffee in the morning.
Right here?
Right here.
Yes, sir.
Just come on down here.
Okay.
I'm going to go feed.
Sounds good. Thank you. Mr. Buhler, that was unbelievable. I really, really enjoyed that. There's not, you guys realize, you and Steve, and there's not many of you guys left in the world. I mean, and it's a humbling experience for me to be able to sit here and talk to you. It really is.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Yeah, I don't know what else to think about it, but
well,
you're most certainly welcome.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many people in this world that they devote their life to making money or being businessmen and being all this, and you guys, you hunt lions and you do things that in a way I wish I'd done since I was young.
Yeah, I've never done anything else except hunt with dogs.
But you've enjoyed it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's been a good living for you.
Yeah,
and a good
well,
life.
it's something that I choose to do,
Yeah,
I
that's
choose to do it, and wouldn't change it if I could.
yeah. What is that worth? I mean, to be able to do what you love all your life. I mean, that's priceless.
Yep.
And there's so many people that I think they don't understand that not that they'd want to lion hunt, but just to be able to do what you love to do. And
Yeah, it's been a wonderful deal, to be able to hunt in Old Mexico and Montana and Canada.
oh, you went in. We didn't even get into Old Mexico.
What's that?
We didn't even get into Old Mexico.
No, it's all right.
Did you go?
We're in good shape, but I've hunted all over wherever there's lions. And
Well, one of these days, maybe if you will allow me, I'll load up a mule and I'll come up and ride around with you a little bit sometime.
well, you can.
Is that against the rules with your business or with the company?
Who knows how long I'm going to be working there?
Okay.
I've got nearly 50 years in with that outfit.
You can retire then, can't you?
I can retire, walk away easy.
Really? From that, do you get a decent retirement?
I probably won't starve to death if I work every day. No, I won't. Yeah, I'll be all right.
Will you? Good.
Yeah.
Good.
I'll be all right. And, my place is all set up for hunting, where I never really done anything else, I've got places for dogs and places for mules.
If you retired next week, next
Yes.
Friday, you retired next week, and you didn't, what would you do the following week?
Hunt lions.
That's what I wanted to hear. That's a good one to end it on.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll hunt lions somewhere.
No matter what. That's
Yeah.
good. That's super.